us live on the air.
All right, here we go. SSB podcast version.
Hey,
LaTroy.
we're here.
Guess
where we are, right?
We spoke it. We talked about speaking this into existence, and we have spoken it into existence.
Players Grill, where 600 Park Street.
Exactly.
We are here, setting it up.
We are here. We are here. And before we were going to get the podcast rolling, we wanted to start off with one of our great supporters as the season came to a close, and we talked about basketball, day after day. EAS recruiting really popped into mind, and we talked about Coach Strong, myself. We're both parents, we're both coaches, and the recruiting world has totally changed. Back in the day, it was a coach's job to help get these kids scholarships. Just talk about how what your experience was and how you feel about it now.
Well, and it's interesting that you and I we coached on multiple levels, from semi-pro to college as well as high school, and definitely the role has changed. I saw the change coming, especially when highlight videos became more important than just getting out there and making the phone calls, and then it really started to hit home when kids are getting offered and the coaches were not even communicating with the head coach at the high school and stuff like that. So you really kind of had to figure out a way to kind of manipulate how you did your recruiting and get out there early, or just make sure your players were communicating with you at the same time. So it's one of those things that definitely, if you have a service that you can go through, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We talked before about, high level kids, they're going to get their looks.
Right.
If you're a top 100, you're fine. You're going to be recruited. Even a little bit lower than that, you're going to get recruited. But it's those kids that fall in between. And we have Mike McCormick here with EAS Recruiting. And before you talk about EAS, just give us a little bit about your background, where you come from.
Well, I'm from the Northeast originally, but coaching background, I was an assistant at Southern Polytechnic State University for a few years under Mike Helfer, who's now the head coach of Valdosta State. He's been there, I think, in his 19th season.
Yeah.
So really, that was my mentor. And then I moved back down here to Jacksonville and got involved with Powerhouse Christian Academy, but also was running a lot of AAU stuff. Started with the Jacksonville Nets, then created my own Heart and Hustle program. Had a lot of success with a lot of high-level kids with that program, and which kind of morphed into the Dwight Howard D12 Warriors sponsorship out of Orlando. So ran that for a few years, sent a bunch of kids to college, and then kind of started having kids of my own, and kind of got out of it for a little bit and kind of just working my way back into it. And just seeing the landscape has completely changed from all the kids that we used to help get placed, the kids that we used to speak about.
Right, yeah.
And what you're seeing now is, like you mentioned, the top 100, 120, maybe even up to 150 kids. They don't need a whole lot of help, but it's the kids who would typically go to a small D1 like a JU or North Florida that are not getting recruited. They're not on anybody's radar. The Division II schools aren't that interested. They're not the real high players like the Valdosta States and some of the other schools you see like Nova Southeastern. They're going after the D1 transfers.
Right.
And they already have a budget to pay these kids. So our wheelhouse at EAS Sports is really the kids who are looking to play on the NAIA level, the lower D2 level, even some of the JUCOs as well as Division IIIs. So we really spend a lot of time just reaching out to kids who are really putting all their information out there on X and other social media platforms so that we can reach out to them and kind of point them in a direction, see if there's a way we can help them.
Yeah, we have several local players who are putting up great numbers, really good players that, 7 years ago, they would be being recruited by a Flagler or a Southeastern or these different schools, where now they're kind of lost. And I know, Mike already is working with a couple of these kids locally who already have college coaches saying, hey, we got a spot, wait till our season's over. We're bringing them down for a workout. We have a place for these kids. So, it kind of goes hand in hand with what we're doing at SSB, and we're reaching out to all these we're watching all these games, all these kids, and it's kind of a perfect marriage, that we can help these kids and put them out there at the same time. EAS recruiting can help out as well.
So, Mike, I got a question for you. So, the timeline. Can you kind of express of how the timeline has changed from where it was to where it is now? So, and I mean by example, it's a lot of parents don't understand this because it gets around November, their child's a senior and everything, and they're trying to figure out why I'm not getting any looks, why I'm not getting any looks. Well, it's not like that anymore because it used to have that November, December kind of flux where you get out there, you make phone calls, and people were calling you back. Then you start getting to where you start getting to the playoff time. Then you start making more contact, whatever. And then colleges were more apt to try to give you a commitment where now they're not committing to later. So tell about how the timeline and the calendar has kind of changed.
Well, it's a really good point because it's kind of how the dominoes fall, right? Until those D1s start making their moves and putting their kids into the portal. And we all know that the scholarships are year to year anyway. So with the money situation on the high level to D1 levels, what you're finding is that these kids are not being renewed. So it's almost like they're getting fired and they're putting into free agency. And so now you had the D1s that are moving, and then you had the mid-majors waiting for them to make their moves. And then you had the lower majors, right? The JUs and North Floridas. And then you have schools like Flagler, Valdosta, and schools along those lines that they're waiting for the D1s to make their moves as well. And the JUCOs are waiting. So everything, the timeline is way pushed back.
Right.
And I think what you're going to see are a lot of late commitments in the summer. So the summer is going to be really fast because even in football, you see you have spring football, and then everyone's going to make their cuts, and then there's kids going back into the portal. So it's a really stressful time for parents and for the kids, and hopefully we can help these kids and these families through that process and really give them some sound advice and help them to be patient and know that help is on the way.
Yeah. So what Mike just said was, moms, dads, please be patient.
Chill,
Don't beat up the coach and don't start stressing everybody out. I mean, listen, everything has been pushed back to that late summer. Just be prepared when it comes. You're ready to make that sign on that dotted line.
Yeah, and these coaches, talking about the coaches, the high school coach aspect, and I'll tell you this, as a dad of a kid who's getting recruited right now, I had a college coach tell me at one point, I don't care where he goes to high school, we're going to see him on the circuit.
Right.
And so it's different because it used to be those college coaches would be in your high school gym. They would come to a couple games. They would show up for this and that. Now it's not even a thought in their mind about, the live period has been cut down. They have just a couple times to see kids during the summer, and that's it.
Yeah, when I was coaching on the AAU circuit, and like I said, we had 8, 9, 10 D1 players every year on our teams. The high schools didn't have much control anymore. There was only a few programs in the city that really mattered as far as their coaches having any kind of influence. And that's a dangerous place to be because you don't have a lot of guys who are only looking out for the best interest of the kid and the family.
Right.
And I think the game's kind of gotten that way in a lot of ways where everybody's just thinking win, 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 as opposed to what's the best situation, what's the best fit. Your son's a high-level recruit. Where's the best place for him to go? It's going to be somewhere where he's comfortable. It's going to be somewhere where he's going to play early. And I think a lot of kids are kind of going to miss out on that. They're going to go for the shiny new
exactly right.
penny, right? I think that's a big thing to focus on is where you're going to fit and where you're going to be able to play early.
No doubt about it.
So to talk about the circuit, and that's a huge thing that I've been battling with for my last 5 years of high school coaching, is that the circuit is where you want your players to be, because you fall into the situation where I had a lot of guys that want to go play these little rinky-dink type AAU programs, which I just call cash cows, and they just basically taking money.
Right.
And you find these parents that say, well, no, they're doing this, they're doing that. Well, no, they're really not.
No, they're not.
So can you explain to the audience, what does it mean to be on the circuit?
Well, I think there's about 4 or 5 different circuits,
right.
And you have your A level, which is going to be your EYBL, the Adidas, the Under Armour, and there's a few others. Even I think the New Balance is more of a tier 2. But those are those are the places that these college coaches, the D1s coaches, are going to come watch kids play. You might have a few D2 guys showing up there, but it's mostly the D1 coaches that are going to be on that tier 1 level. Tier 2, they might not be playing in front of anybody but some writers.
Yeah.
Tier 3, Tier 4, you're better off paying a guy like me to get you recruited versus going there and staying locally and get yourself a good trainer.
We talked about that. It's even, and I can attest, we were on the EYBL circuit the last 2 years with Cam, and even the EYBL circuit now, you have the top whatever teams. Luckily, we were with the Night Riders, fantastic team. The Boozer brothers, the coaches were going to be on that
Right.
court regardless. But you had some teams playing on that back quarter in the EYBL that never saw a coach step
Never.
foot
Right.
on their court.
Right.
So those tier 2 and down, you're just paying money to travel
Right.
for your kid to get whatever trophy they get that weekend. So
Now,
you're right.
You could be at a good tier 2 event and there'd be some quality writers there.
Right.
All right. But if you don't have anybody who knows the writer, who's following up with the writer, who's
Right.
then pursuing that recruitment, that kid might get missed. Because I'm just telling you, and you know this, I'm sure you do as well. When I was coaching on the NAIA level, we didn't even walk into a high school gym. We're going to a JUCO. We're going to go recruit a grown man.
Right.
And that's what the lower level schools are going to do. But a lot of those kids now are getting taken by the D1s and the mid-majors, and they're getting a paycheck. So these smaller schools, the D2s and D3s and NAIAs, they have to rely on some of the high school kids. But they don't have the budgets to go find them.
Right.
And they're not going to waste their budget money going to an event that they might not
Right.
find one kid.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on the JUCO not counting toward eligibility longer? So now you get an extra 2 years.
Yeah, so I'm still confused about that. To be
Me
quite
too.
frank.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't know if
everybody
that
is.
stopped. I don't know if it ended. I don't know if they still get a COVID year. To me, it's crazy because now your son coming out is going to have to deal with a 20-year-old, maybe a 21-year-old man,
Or older.
right? Could have worked for a year or two and then went to play JUCO ball. So, and you see a lot of the coaches kind of having a lot of pushback on this, and John Calipari's one of them. He's talking about
Right.
guys being 27 years old.
Right.
He's got 2 kids in the stands watching them play, and probably joking a little bit there. But do we need pros coming back into play in college? This is supposed to be an opportunity for 17, 18-year-old boys and girls to mature and grow up into young adults and to have an opportunity that sets the pace for the next 40 years of their life.
Right.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think that's what we're missing. And the money's great. Let the kids get paid. I'm a big believer in that. But we've lost sight of the fact of what this is for, right? We're trying to build character in these young folks to where they have an opportunity to have a great life, and that is getting missed. And that's the worst part about the whole thing.
And
Most definitely.
yeah, but before you get out of here, I just wanted to throw out there because EAS recruiting kind of steps in for that. High school coach has a full-time job, right?
Correct. Yes.
And like we said, the recruiting world is different. They can't pick up the phone and just make it
No.
happen like they used to. So EAS is really there to work full time.
Yes.
You will have a full-time person working for your child to get them to the next level.
Right.
And I see it. I talk to Mike all the time, and we talk about some local kids, some kids that are now signed up with EAS that he's working with, and reaching out to college coaches, and I see what's happening.
Right.
And it's a full-time job that he's out marketing these kids, and and I think it's a game changer for those type of kids that we're talking about.
And I
It's
totally
huge.
agree with you 100% because I feel like that investment is a whole lot better than those AAU investments because like you were saying earlier, you're just paying to travel at this point in time. Where
Right.
you can pay someone to full-time go out there and really push your child. That's what you want.
Right.
If you think about some of these kids who play in front of no college coaches, they spend, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000 in a travel season.
Or more than that now, I bet.
Could be more, right? And if they invested that money in a really good trainer and learning the game and have somebody like me looking out for them,
Right.
that's the game changer, right? Because the coaches, they would love to just get a phone call and some video and someone to talk about the kid's character and his work ethic. And then, hey, let's get him down for a visit and then they can see him work out. That's a big difference.
That's huge because one of my old slogans last few years was you guys have to become not just shot takers, but shot makers. I say because consistency is what they're looking for.
Right.
You can take as many shots you want to. They want to see that guy that's going to put the ball in the basket.
Right.
100%.
And the really cool thing, last thing, EAS that I know is really started with baseball, softball, whatnot.
softball.
And they have LaTroy, you'll like this, 100% placement of any kid that's signed up on the baseball, softball side.
Over 450 kids.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
100% placement. So it's not like, you're taking a chance. You're getting guaranteed results.
That's awesome. That's great.
And I know You got to get home and do some homework.
Absolutely.
Shout out to the kids. Get your homework done in the McCormick
Absolutely.
household.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, academics, by far the number one thing. You want to get recruited, you better get your grades up.
There you go.
Wow.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming out.
That's it.
Troy,
Good to meet you.
pleasure meeting you guys. Have a great day.
All right.
And we're going to pause right here for a second.
Suffice to say, much has changed in Orange Park, Clay County, and the world since then. Though much has changed in the world, our mission remains the same. We are a church intent on fulfilling that mission and are strategically engaged in our community through partnerships with local schools, sports teams, veterans organizations, and more. We are a family equipping church. We invite you to check us out at firstfam.org or join us in person at 1140 Kingsley Avenue, Orange Park, Florida.
Hold up. Just.
All right, we are back. SSB podcast, LaTroy Strong. We got our special guest who is puts on some of the best shows in the city, Will Holloman. I mean, I tell you what, the last Street Ball edition, that was one of the most fun we had.
1v1, baby, right?
Definitely.
1v1.
Definitely.
He lost all the sponsors, but they're coming back.
Yeah, no, I didn't bring them in the first place. I knew not, I was smart enough not to bring them.
So you got something else coming up anytime soon, or
August 1st, we're
August 1st?
doing the $5,000 one-on-one tournament. That's the one where you will see a lot of sponsors.
Yeah, that's big time.
So there you go.
That's a lot of fun. All of his events are great, so check them out. We'll make sure we're on here live beforehand promoting it or whatnot. But the girls 2-on-2, we did that. That was fantastic. Street Ball edition, fantastic. But his cherry on top is the one-on-one for 5K. Who won it last year?
Travis McConico.
Yes,
Travis
overseas.
McConico.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Heck
Travis
of a
McConico.
player. Yep.
Definitely.
Nice little payday there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to turn it a little bit and chat a little bit about high school basketball in town. You know, that's been our bread and butter here at SSB, and we're really it's time right now. It's playoff time. Road to UNF. Well, it would have been nice if you could have played a Final Four at UNF, right? It's a little different.
Play at the crib.
Yeah.
And everybody hates Lakeland anyway. It's nothing in Lakeland. There's no restaurants, nothing to do. I mean, nobody wanted to go to Lakeland in the first place.
Right.
That's the story too. For like last 10, 12 years, I've been going. It's like the trip that I do with my dad and everything. And while I'm there, house is packed, and everyone said the same thing. Man, what's in Lakeland? We don't go to Lakeland. I'm an avid golfer, and I get there, I can't find out where to golf. I have to go all the way to Tampa.
Right.
They get a good round. You know?
Right.
So,
Right.
Definitely.
No, it's awesome that it's here in town, and we're going to be covering it, you know, from the get-go.
So funny, we talking about it too. I just had a conversation with a gentleman the other day, and what do you think about the size of UNF's gym as opposed to what we probably may have coming to that arena?
Yeah, well, I can only compare it to Lakeland,
Okay.
you know, and I went. You were there all the time. There were games where it was half full, even though, it was a big time state tournament. In Jacksonville, I think it's more attractive. You have like Will said, you got the town center there, you got restaurants, you got things to do. I think it could be bigger than UNF, if you know what I mean.
Well, I think it's a lot more for the girls than it is for the guys. I think because when you get a decent crowd for the girls, it looks like it's a lot more people in there. Because at Lakeland, it was just bottom bowl and that was about
it, right?
Yeah. So okay.
Way back when I was in high school, for 2 years they did it over in Tallahassee at the Civic Center.
Yeah.
And but I guess that was just too far to travel for those South Florida teams and whatnot.
Hey, Scott, that should be way back.
Way back. They didn't have TV. It was in black and white. Oh man. But let's go. Let's talk a little bit about what we have coming. We had the first round last week. We didn't go out and cover. We were going to go to Jackson, but they had a 4-24 team coming over. So we skipped that one. But let's go. Let's start down in the rural division, and locally we have Hilliard still in it, and this game that they play, the winner goes to the Final Four.
Correct.
So it's a shorter trip for those guys.
And it's interesting because the last 3, 4, 5 years, Hilliard has been placing somebody in the state series almost each year.
Yeah.
So I mean, they definitely have a very good chance to make it to the Final Four, which is huge. It's a 1-game win, and guess what? They're right there at UNF.
You're exactly right. And they're on the road at Trenton and Wildwood, Williston on the other side. Williston's taken a couple state championships back in the past few years. But their assistant coach is now the head coach at Wildwood. He's built a little bit of powerhouse there, but I really think it's kind of even. So I think if Hilliard can pull it off and basically play at home, it'd be a great look for them.
Definitely.
Going over to 1A now, this one is, to me, you can already write it. You got Impact playing Christchurch. Nothing against Christchurch, nothing against FAMU, nothing against NFEI.
Blowout.
But Impact, you could put Impact in a Final Four, basically any of these classes that we're talking about.
Definitely. I mean, we saw Impact, the big game we did with Providence and everything, and we saw where their point guard just really didn't seem to be there. And I think Providence actually took control of the game because he just really, and he's also the one who kind of makes them go. He's the glue that sticks. There's his buddy on the other side also rolls well when he's going good, and then the big guys, they're definitely there as the bookends just to kind of make things finish. So.
Yeah, and when Ronald, like you said, he didn't do great that game, but it came down to the wire. They still had a chance to win late. So, if we're making picks there, I'm saying Impact is you can write them in for a little reservation at UNF.
At UNF, yeah.
You got that too, Will?
Easily. Yeah, he went through that little incident with the seizures on the court.
Yeah, he hit his head, right?
Yeah, and I think ever since then he's been playing a little apprehensive. I think that's kind of in the back of his mind a little bit because he played kind of reckless. He just go to the.
He does. That's what we were talking about. He was just, he's like wild. But he's controlled, but crazy. It's the controlled chaos, I guess.
But after your first real injury, you change the way you play. As players, you don't play as reckless when you actually get hurt for the first time.
Well, it's interesting too that you said it because that's the first time I've heard that that's the severity of his injury. Because I mean, if you twist an ankle or you do something to your shoulders or something like that, I mean that's something tangible where you can really kind of feel and understand where it's coming from. But we have a situation where you have a seizure. I mean, at that point in time, you lose total control over what's going on, and that's a scary situation even for an adult.
Right. And that's something that doesn't leave. I mean, you can't just, roll out of bed the next day and start playing.
Right.
So hopefully he's well for this run for them. Even without him,
they won't have to do much.
Playing his best.
Yeah.
He can take a couple days off, right?
Yeah, they'll be okay.
Take a little time to recoup.
They'll be fine.
Now we go to 3A. Let's go to 2A. I'm sorry. And just what you were talking about, that Providence game. The great strategy there with Providence and Impact playing a game at UNF,
right?
Knowing the Final Four was going to be UNF, so they already got a practice in a game there. Providence playing Rocky Bayou, who knocked off San Jose Prep. San Jose Prep was up by 12 in that game. Had some foul trouble late.
Okay.
Rocky Bayou came back and won late. And then you got PK Young and First Academy. Again, I think Providence, they would have to do something terrible to lose. Somebody's going to have to roll an ankle in practice knock on wood, but yeah, a few people.
have to
A
roll
few
in.
people.
Yeah, as I look around the whole bracket and everything, based on what we've seen thus far, I really feel like Providence definitely has a chance. And we talked about this before. I think they got a chance to go all the way.
Yeah, when Nolan kind of came back, without Nolan, they were still a really good team. Don't get me wrong, but you add Nolan, that presence really changes the game. It makes them a favorite to win it instead of just a team that's going to be there.
And it was interesting because I watched him and it seemed like he's the kind of player who can take a game off and they still look very good. Or he can get out there and take control and the guys are going to say, hey, all right, Nolan, your time, you go to work.
You're right.
Which is huge.
You're right. He's the kind of player that, and Will, you've played long enough and been around guys. Sometimes you impact the game without having to score.
Absolutely.
You draw a defender, you're blocking shots, you're rebounding. He's a guy that can really change the game and doesn't have to score a ton of points.
Right. Teams that rely on guards is always a question mark. But when you have that force that can control the glass, that changes the spectrum of your team totally, if you ask me. Because guards are gonna miss shots, make shots, but when you got that interior, that's that's as good as gold.
Yeah.
And it uplifted them tremendously with the fact that they had the big guy, the big freshman on the inside.
Yeah.
But adding him back to it, he now goes to the starting role. The freshman goes back to the bench and then comes in, and he's an impact player because he's pretty much played almost about 75% of the season as a starter. Right. And they seem like they're kind of team that, hey, they're just about winning, and they're well coached.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And now we move on to 3A and our hometown Jackson Tigers, who we cover a lot. Coach Byron doing his thing out there.
Give it out to Sam.
They got a day off last Saturday playing Mariana. 4-24 team, winning the district, making the trip over. I told Courtney, I was like, I don't know if we should go out there and cover that one. That's not going to be pretty.
Man, it was Valentine's Day. It's also my anniversary.
Yeah.
I just couldn't have the right words to say that to the wife. Also understanding who Jackson was playing.
Right.
I was like, Court, hey, let's take this one off. We'll make it happen these next 2 Saturdays.
Right. And we saw Jackson. We did cover that last Jackson-Wolfson game, who I thought Coach Moore-Wolfson did a great job for a long time in that game.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, they stayed with Jackson through about midway through that third quarter, and then the normal Jackson came back and kind of and pulled it away in a big way. But teams like Wolfson and Episcopal came in, gave Jackson a little bit of trouble in that game. But I don't foresee Coach Byron and Jackson having much trouble getting back to the Final Four.
Well, touch a little bit about Wolfson, man. What do you think the future looks like for them? Because I thought they looked very good.
To be honest, it's hard when you're a school that focuses more so on academics. I think that's their focal point now. So it's rare that you're going to have people who my focus is academics, but I just so happen to be really, really good at basketball. That's a rare combination for kids. So I had a lot of talks with Coach Henry. He's a great guy. Like I told him, he's just going to have to build it from the ground up. He's going to have to develop some type of system, hang his hat on something, and just get the guys to perfect it. That's his only option.
Yeah, and it's a situation where because they're so good academically, they can get those really good academic kids from other places. Mm-hmm. And, if you're doing a good job, I remember back in the day when Coach Battle was with Stanton, remember?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Coach Battle was Stanton, and Stanton's always been that prep school and whatnot, but Coach Battle found a way to get those kids in there and really build something good for while he was there. So I think Coach Henry's the guy to do it. I think he's super coach and has a great background and can get it done.
100% agree with that. And I'm a Wolfson fan. I showed up when Antonio Lawrence is.
He did.
Oh, we saw you.
Yeah.
And so I will be very excited for them to get back to the prominence they used to have.
Do you think we can get Red on one of these podcasts?
No.
I don't think so either. Golly, I would love to, though.
Absolutely can.
Well, in looking at the brackets, I tell you what, Jackson is kind of in an unlucky situation. What I mean by that is they happen to be on the same side of the bracket as the Villages and Windermere Prep. To me, those are the class acts in this whole bracket along with Jackson. And what happens is once they get to the Final Four, they'll see them in the first round.
Right.
So that would be interesting for them because it's almost one of those situations where not taking anything from the other teams where you almost see a championship that first round of the Final Four.
This class is crazy. Yes. I mean, you could look down that list and there's so many teams that could win a state championship. Windermere Prep, for example, great team. Brandon Bass is a fantastic player going to Florida State.
Yep.
But they came over to Creekside and almost got beat by Creekside. You know what I mean? Because they rely so much on Brandon that as you said, if you rely on a guard and they have a tough night or they're off shooting or something like that, you're not going to win when it gets down to this time.
Right.
Villages have a lot of weapons now.
Yes.
Ton of weapons.
I love Aaron Britt.
Yeah, Britt is
Aaron Britt is gonna make a lot of money playing basketball.
Aaron Britt. They got the kid Brutus that's going to LSU.
Yes, sir.
I mean, they got a long. I mean, you can name a long list of kids.
Well, I say that's a scary look over there. You know, the Villages come real strong, and that Wyndham and Prep, like I said, they got a marquee player in there, so it could push them deep into the playoffs, even to the championship. And as we know, Jackson's nemesis has always been the state championship.
Yeah.
You know, they run through the season, everything's going well, and then they get to that state championship, and this is what I've said always been a problem because I've been there. They're used to playing under certain kind of officiating.
Yeah, it's different.
And then when you get to the state tournament, the officiating changes, and those guys that are there are supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So when you put them to the free throw line, they're shooting 80 and 90% from the free throw line. They're also being able to handle that press that's notorious, a nightmare on Main Street. So when you get to the state tournament, they got quality guards, they got bigs, they got swingmen that can handle the press. And then so what happens on that half court sets?
And you look at the Villages; they play one of the strongest schedules in the state, so they've seen it all.
Yes.
And what else they're gonna? You know what else they're gonna do? Even though it's in Jacksonville, I was at Cam and I were at the Jackson Villages game down in Lakeland last year, and they busted about 85 buses of 75, 80-year-olds.
Yes.
White hair, screaming and yelling. And I guarantee they bust them right back up here to Jacksonville.
Oh, that brings back those old JUCO days, man. Remember how Central Florida Community College
Yes,
had the senior citizens area right there? And they used to bring them right over to the games and everything? That was always big.
They would do it. But that bracket, that is a tough bracket. So that's going to be, I don't think Jackson's going to have a time against Bradford. Possibly could face Episcopal again, and then it gets tough.
It's a death sentence. But they really have to reshape that bracket because at the top 10 in 3A or whatever division that
3A,
is,
3A.
You got 2 public schools going against 8 private schools, and those private schools they don't have regular good guys. They're playing against Scotty Barnes down there.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and the thing about, like I told Byron, him and I are friends, like, in Jacksonville, you get away with murder because you're not playing against Division I talent night in and night out. And, you can pressure regular guys, but guys who are on a Division I level in high school, they don't feel pressure.
No.
They want you. Like, I remember guys like, TJ Bannister and point guards I played with, like, they laugh at you with all that, we're going to press. Like, what?
Right. Come on.
Right. For real? So, like, when they get to those guys who are on that type of level, like, come on, you gonna press Aaron Britt? Like, he's gonna wave everybody off and, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a different level, so you can't.
And he ended up with an alley-oop at the end of it too. That's crazy.
But I feel like personally, if Jackson had the path that Impact had or Providence had the last 10 years, James Collins would have 3 state championships. Byron would have 1 or 2. Jackson would have 6 rings right now if it wasn't for their paths, because they've had state championship teams, in my opinion.
And that 3A, like you're right, that 3A always has a group of private schools in there just because of the size of the school.
Right.
So they fall into that area.
They need to go independent though. If I'm bringing kids from all over the state, it's not fair to play against a group of guys who all go to the same school, same neighborhood. Like, that's not. It shouldn't be that.
It's like bowls and swimming. They bring kids from all over the world and win, 58 straight state championships.
You're supposed to win. If you're able to do that. So I feel like the public schools should be thumping with each other, and all that private stuff should be separate.
And let them play afterwards, right? Have an overall champion if they want to do it, whatever.
So now this class is going to be an interesting class here.
This 4A class coming up, you got Bishop Kenny as the 1 seed. Here in the area, so they get to play at home to get to UNF. So Pensacola, Fort Walton, and Godby. I'm going to tell you right now, number 2 Godby. We covered Godby at the Sun Bash.
Yes.
And
they look a little unorthodox, out of sorts.
Yeah, I don't see Bishop Kenny having a problem
He
with
don't
them.
want to say they look bad. I saw them earlier this year too. They're not a good team. Bishop
Yeah.
Kenny has a good. They're in a blessed situation.
They are.
Because I don't think Bishop Kenny's that good, but
A great system.
they're always great.
Yep.
And that's what I was talking about with Henry Moore. Find a system that these guys can play in, and that's what Bishop Kenny's good at. They have
Yeah.
a system. They're gonna do it. Their guys are disciplined. So any given night.
Yeah, they played the regular season and earned themselves a #1 seed, so they get to play at home, all the way through.
No, absolutely. And I got a phone call from one of the coaches from Fort Walton Beach, and they're actually getting one of their better players back. So that could be also an added bonus to them as they get into the playoffs.
Interesting.
That's a trap game too, though, because like driving, public schools don't have a budget to stay overnight.
Right.
So like, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like every year we lost in the playoffs because we had to drive 6 hours, then get off the bus and play.
Yeah,
So
well,
if
yeah,
you
I
coming
remember
from-
those days. Yeah.
If you coming from Fort Walton Beach, if you're not staying the night here, you're gonna lose. Like you can't drive 7 hours, get off the bus, and then go play.
Right.
And not to
Don't
knock
work
anything
like
from Duval County, because I feel like that's kind of a DCPS situation where you fall into that route where, you know what, they regulate the doggone money so much that you don't prepare yourself for those 2 days, those 3 days or whatever. So you're right. There's a lot of high schools that they go over there, they got to play right then, and then they'll make a decision. Well, if we win, then we'll figure out what happens next.
Right.
Like somebody like Jackson, they've got to the position where, you know what, they're playing for playoffs every time they step on the court. So their booster club is already kind of built up a little nest egg that, you know what, all right, we're going to give you guys those 3 days. We'll take care of it there. But hopefully, y'all #1 seed, and you got to travel in
Right.
the first place.
Right. So going to 5A, we have 2 teams here. Actually 3. I mean, Columbia is right up the road, but we have Fleming Island 1 and Ponte Vedra 2. If they both win, they'll face each other. We've covered Fleming Island many a time. And you kind of, Will, you said it before. It's like one of those teams. Fleming Island has lived and died by pressure, defensive pressure. Guards are press.
Right.
They're going to come upon teams that doesn't bother them.
At all.
So
Right.
then what happens, right?
Right.
Now that's a load of mess here. I'm with you on as far as the brackets are concerned. There's nowhere in the world that Fleming and Ponte Vedra to be in the same bracket, getting ready to play against each other, because that, to me, that's a money game. I mean, that's the kind of situation where you want to see those type of teams in the Final Four all at the same time, because all the marquee names that's on those teams, the coaching
man.
staff, the history, a little bit of everything about that right there. I mean, if I was in charge of this thing, I would have mixed that up just a little bit.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. No, I get it.
I really want to see that game though.
Me too.
I
Yeah.
really want to see the Carson kid and Maddox.
Yeah, that'll be about. We thought we were going to see them last year, remember? But Leon knocked off Fleming Island,
Right.
and
Right, I remember that.
and so we didn't get to that game. But I was looking forward to that one too. Hopefully they can both pull this off. And then the talk of the well, not yet. And I'm going to go to the talk of the town yet. Now we go to 6A. And we have
Before you go to 6,
yeah.
I want to make a quick comment. On the other side, the Jesuit, right? Have you guys ever seen Jesuit?
I don't think I have.
Okay, so we seen them a couple times in state, and they run on the court, and you got 8, 5, 6 guys run out there, right? Then they got these 2, 6, 8, 6, 9 guys, right? But talking about buses, they bring in 12 buses of the student population, and they bring them to the games. And listen, it looked like Cameron Indoor in there, because it's
like a home game.
Crazies just go. They just listen. That's one of the most fun I've had at a game watching high school, because they just enjoyed themselves and had a great time. So if you get
That's
a chance
funny.
to watch Jesuit, that's definitely a good game to watch.
Yeah, no doubt. And looking at 6A, the one that blew my mind, the biggest upset of the entire state so far is Daytona Beach Mainland, who we, got to cover.
Right.
The #1 seed in the region, they get knocked off by an 8 seed with Ocala Forest. So Mainland is out. So now they have Forest and Buchholz, and then we have Tecoy against Lake Howell, who Lake Howell beat the brakes off of Nice. But what do you think about those games?
I tell you what, it's going to be very interesting, but my eyes do drift over to the other side of the bracket, where you got St. Thomas Aquinas, Boyd Anderson, South Plantation, and then Miramar. And Miramar is one of those teams that if Miramar gets into the playoffs, that means that they have one of those elite teams. And what I mean by that, me being from that area, that means they probably pulled a lot of those kids from that Carol City area.
Right.
They probably grabbed some other kids from that Broward County area. And so now they're probably an elite team that a lot of people don't know about.
Right.
Because that area of Miramar doesn't have that basketball kind of tradition. But if they're good for a reason.
Right.
Boyd Anderson, great great, always been there. And then you can never count out St. Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah.
I mean, you hate to say it, but they're paying for players.
Yeah, no, it's like Villages. It's a lot like the Villages. They're gonna come strong every year. Locally, Tecoy made it last year to the Final Four. They got a little bit tougher time because they have Lake Howell, who's a very good team. But I believe whoever gets out of that game is going to go to the Final Four.
So tell me a little about Tecoy Creek, because they've been kind of an anomaly for me. I mean, they've been in existence for 3 years, 4 years?
Yeah.
Personally, I feel like the kid King,
Mm-hmm.
he got MVP of my. I have a middle school league called the Jackie Classic.
Okay.
And he averaged about 32 a game throughout that league. And I honestly feel like I think he's a sophomore.
He's a sophomore, yeah. He and Cam played together at EYBO.
I feel like, that's within the next couple of years will be one of the better players.
I tell you right now, like I said, he and Cam played with the Night Riders this summer in the EYBL circuit, and King kind of came in under the radar, and he doesn't do anything flashy. I think that's why why he stays under the radar a little bit, because he's a solid, great player, great teammate, great player, great kid, great family, but you're not going to see any highlights of him doing anything crazy or things like that. So he's kind of old school, but I mean, probably shoots 60% from the field. He's just a really solid player.
You almost could see like a Carmelo type appearance out of him. Carmelo ran through the NCAA that year. That'd be nice if he could do that and take his guys in there.
And like Will said, talking about systems, I think Will Wilson at Tecoy found himself a really good system.
Right.
He last year they had a really good senior. He graduated, but that system, they kept it rolling. Just filled in the blanks. So I think if they can get past this game, they have another trip to the Final Four.
Yeah, I've just been intrigued as how they just got the talent over there so quickly. I mean, it was like out of nowhere, all of a sudden, Tecoy Creek is in existence, and guess what? They're competing for championships.
But it's not a coincidence that their coach, played recently, played Division I basketball, and I've got a chance to see some of the way they practice. And they practice on that level.
Good.
And a lot of high schools just don't. But their practice is structured like a Division I practice. So to me, I'm not at all surprised at the success he's had because of the way they day in and day out, the way they attack practice.
Right. All right, let's move on now. We got the last one, 7A, with a lot of talk of the town is Coach Clark, only female coach in town coaching the boys at Atlantic Coast with their first district championship, doing big things, and now they're on the road at Lake Mary. Talk to me about Atlantic Coast. I personally have not seen them play much this year. We played them in the summer, but I haven't seen them play during the season.
They're scary, and that's the best way to say it, because it's like they keep coming at you. And I got to give a testament to her, and she really kind of, drew a line in the sand. She held to her ground, and because the first year, I heard that she really took a beating mentally, emotionally, and everything, and she stuck with it, and everything's paying off for her right now. But they're good everywhere. And that's the funny part about it. It's just that they run her system. It looks very well. And the interesting part about it is what I always said about women's basketball was you're playing below the rim, and if you have a really good system, then things work out in women's basketball. So I think what she did was she was able to morph and kind of do a hybrid and a women's game with boys. And they're now buying into it. And you can see it because they're efficient. They do their movements, and then they're just in the right place at the right time. And like you said, they put the ball in the basket as well.
Yeah, and you're right. Those players, you can tell they really bought into her and her philosophy, her culture, and you do. That's half the battle. If you can buy into that, all the other stuff is easy. It's basketball. You put the ball in the hoop.
And it's funny because all my success came from that right there. When I could get my guys to buy into playing below the rim, everything else was a bonus, because guess what? We're going to play above the rim anyway because you're just athletic.
I took a big L social media saying that they were gonna beat Jackson.
You did.
Yeah, but no, the reason why, I'm gonna tell you why I did. Those kids, and this is very rare. This is super rare. Like, and I've been around the game a long time. They literally all like each other.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
that's super rare. Like those
Mhm.
guys, that core group has been playing for Claudia Menendez
Yeah.
with the Wolfpack since
The
they
YMCA,
were.
yeah.
They've been in my leagues since
Yeah.
they were fifth graders.
Who
That
also does
same-
it? Claudia does a great job with those
Absolutely.
groups.
And those group of guys, they spend nights at each other's houses. Their moms are all like sisters. The moms hang out.
Okay.
So it's just, I was like, you know what? This is a trap game for Jackson. They might sneak up because they really have
The pieces.
they have the pieces, they have the athletes, they have Julian, who a lot of people are gonna see that he's really a player, I think, next season. I think he's a junior. He can really play too. So I thought they would sneak up on Jackson because they have the athletes, but
What's the rest of that bracket look like? Coach?
Well, you got to look on the other side, man, and you definitely say Columbus is sitting over there. Yes, the Boozer brothers are gone, but there was some talent right behind them.
They,
I thought was phenomenal.
They reloaded. They
are well coached over there also. Then you got Oak Ridge, is always going to be good. Windermere, Olympia is they're another scary team that kind of came out of nowhere, kind of like a Decoy Creek. So
are all those teams you just said all in the same region over there?
Yeah, yes. We got Oak Ridge, Windermere, Olympia, and then Wilmington on one side, and then you got Columbus, Western, Palmetto, and Coral Gables on the other side.
Columbus I'm just gonna say they play those ESPN tournaments. They play, this is unless the only like I have a problem with my son of playing down to the level of competition. That's the only thing that could catch them.
Well, that's the crazy part about it. I don't know if they can do that any longer because of what the Boozer brothers have done to that program.
Right.
You're talking about 3-4 years in a row that they were at the state tournament. Only other time I've seen that was the Thompson twins.
Yeah.
And then also Walter Clayton.
Yeah.
Walter Clayton did that with Bartow. So I think the tradition there, and now they're saying, you know what? Columbus boys go major Division I and go possibly NBA.
Yeah.
So the guys want to go there. They want to be there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So that's it. We got it. We got it rolling. We'll come back. Are we gonna do this again next week? By the way, every Tuesday, right? We got to come back in Tuesday. So we'll come back and recap the next round. But
look at the regional championships.
Yeah, but we have some other local hoops stuff to talk about before we move on, and that's just some coaching vacancies. Will, you heard about any vacancies in town? I can tell you.
San Jose Prep, I think.
San Jose Prep, that is open.
It's a few jobs that should be open. Say that.
What you think?
University Christian is open.
Christian is open.
It is. I think Bowles is
Bowles
open.
Bowles is open, and Oakleaf.
Oakleaf, that's the one on. Yep.
Price left Oakleaf. That's the best job in the world.
You know what? You know who I told? Matt Bremen. I told Matt. I was like, that's job.
Best job.
To me, because you already have that community there. They have a already grown feeder system, roll right up into the high school team.
He left.
I don't know what happened.
I don't know the scenario behind it.
We don't speak about rumors, Will.
Oh, my
We're not trying to get anything started on here.
My bad.
But we don't know. We don't know. We just know it's open.
I tell you what, though, sometimes I got to say I feel like Nick Saban because I hear my name was on the short list. So even I'm thinking about coming back to coaching, but I don't know where I'm at with that.
That's a good job to have.
I think Oakleaf is a good job to have.
It's so many athletes,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the only high school.
It is.
So you have a whole world of kids. I'm surprised he left.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have ever left that job.
And the feeder right there from the middle school, everything comes right in.
Yeah.
So
he's had, I think this may have been he's been there since the school opened. This may have been his only season that he wasn't 500. Yeah, I think he had to lose a season this year.
Who did they play? They didn't.
Well, they graduated like 7 guys, right, Courtney? They had 7 seniors last year.
In Jacksonville.
And they played.
Who are they losing to?
Orange Park,
Fleming.
Fleming, yeah. But I tell you what, that's what kind of pissed me off about me stepping aside from coaching this year. It's like everybody was loaded last year. Everybody. Reebok graduated 8 people. Oakley graduated 8 people. I mean, and I'm looking at all these teams now. I'm like, well, golly.
You should have stayed in a little bit longer.
Well, that's what frustrated me about Amari, the big kid, leaving and transferring. I said we had it locked in right there at First Coast, ready to go ahead and make that turn. We had the 6'8" kid in there. I had 2 6'7" kids that were right behind him, but even though they weren't on his level, they were ready to step in and be those role players. And I had probably 3 of the best guards in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so we'll keep that updated as days go on. But I don't know. You hear rumors out there, like you said, who's taking what job, but it'll be interesting to see.
So the UC job, though, I think it's very attractive too, though. I mean, because because they can bring in players. They got the international certifications. That mean they can go grab people.
I think the pool of grabbing kids from locally is kind of shallow. So I don't know if that's.
Well, that's half the problem right now. I mean, a lot of these teams are down because, and that's the problem with kids too. You can't build anything because one thing goes wrong, they're jumping to the next school.
And everybody wants to play at Jackson.
Correct.
So,
Byron.
Yeah.
Share some kids,
everybody wants to play at Jackson. I know like 4 kids that are the best kid on their team this year that want to go to Jackson.
Correct.
So.
Right.
And that was the interesting thing. I wondered if that would continue after James left. And Byron's done such a good job. I think it's continuing, and it's a good thing.
It will.
What about the Bowles job? Do you think how attractive that one is?
It depends.
The admissions department.
Will hit the nail on the head. You don't know what you're going to get year after year. They're at one point back when they won their last state championship. They're like, hey, get some hoopers, get everybody you want, bring them in, let's go. And you could get those guys, and then 2 years later, they're like, Coach, you gotta pay for your own kid to come in here.
Right.
Many years ago, when my oldest, this was probably back in mid 2000s, I interviewed for that job and was offered it, and I was like, all right, I'm cool. Like, I got a kid that's going to be in high school soon.
Right.
Let's go. And they're like, oh, you got to pay for him. And I'm like, wait a second, you want me to come, work for pennies and have to pay tuition? I was like, I'm going to be in the negative.
I'm paying you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it just depends on what support you have at the school.
That's a terrible job, just because you don't.
And Will's here to tell us straight.
That's why we got Will here.
You don't want to be at a school where they're not they don't really care if basketball is good or bad, or they're not reliant. Like Jackson basketball keeps that school pumping.
Correct. Yeah.
Like that's their, you know what I'm saying? Like when I was at Wilson, we kept the school pumping.
Exactly.
We were so everything was about, hey, if Red can't pass his class, we need to put him in that class. Like, everything was about making the basketball team good. If you had a school like Bowles, and you had a school like Bowles, I know of 3 kids that they wanted to bring in, that wanted to come, that couldn't get in. So it's like, as a coach, if the admissions doesn't care about being good at basketball, that's tough for somebody who's passionate about basketball.
And that has to be significantly tough, especially when you have them bringing people in for swimming, bringing people in for football, bringing people in for golf. So, and to not be able to do that for basketball is tough. But it's interesting because on the girls' side, though, probably one of the best teams in the state. What's the difference there?
The best team in the state.
Right.
The best team in the state.
I think girls. I mean,
Mr. Kenny.
Yeah.
But
it's just a different world,
Right.
Girls basketball, and then we talked about like Mike, who was here before EAS. There's a lot more money involved, and there are a lot of girls on Bowles basketball teams that are paying to go to Bowles. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
They can afford that tuition and whatnot. Boys basketball is not the same. It's not the same way. You got a different demographic of kids that are boys basketball players than girls.
And Kelly is homegrown Bowles.
Yeah,
so it's a good fit.
Yeah, and she's been there a long time.
Right.
You build something, they're going to come, and Bowles hasn't been able to do that.
Definitely. I think they'll win it this year.
I tell you what, they look really
hope they
good.
do.
I seen them twice this year, and I was overly impressed. And like I said, I cut my teeth on a college level with women, and when you start looking at those players, I saw college players all over the court there.
And then they have the legend Sherry Anthony on the bench with them. Those
I saw that too.
Who, I mean, you add that. That's not really fair.
Right.
So that's 2 topics down. LaTroy, I'm going to kick it to you for number 3. Let's talk about like what all these kids want to do in the future and getting that NBA All-Star game.
I tell you what, we talked about it earlier with the EAS sports and everything. It's really about, kind of getting that top tier and get on the circuit. Those top tier circuit is really what you want to do. We talked about the All-Star game, the NBA a little bit. I tell you what, I was super impressed with the format this year. Because I turned away from it the last few years.
No doubt.
And I'm clicking off. But I love the format this year, and I love how they went at each other. They kept saying Wemby came out hard, so that kind of made everybody else play hard. But then them young dudes, man, they went out there and they just showed us, you know what? It's time to go ahead and pass the torch. I mean, you made LeBron, you made Durant look like they were just standing still.
Right.
So I was super impressed. I found myself just sitting there just watching. I watched the whole thing, and I haven't done that for NBA All-Star game in years.
Yeah, and it's funny because when they announced it, I was like, I just got so turned off year after year them trying new thing. I'm like, this is gonna be something stupid again. They're gonna be shooting shots from half court and all this is gonna go down. But then I started like you. I'm like, wait a second, this is kind of they're competing. This is kind of fun.
It's because LeBron is losing his power. When LeBron was in power, he didn't take it serious. He didn't want to go at people. He was the face of the league. He was who they wanted to be like. Now that LeBron is fading, you got new stars coming in that want to kill, they want to compete. I think everything is about to take a turn once LeBron, gets out the lead within the next couple of years.
So, Will, I have an answer, my own answer to this, but I'm going to ask you this question. Who do you think is the face of the league in the future?
I would say Wemby for sure. Definitely Wemby.
Okay. I think I agree with Wemby. I think a lot of people say Ant, but I don't think he wants. I don't think he can do it. I don't think he can carry it. Right. He's got 20 kids.
Yeah.
But,
and paying off baby mamas, all that type. I don't think his lifestyle.
Right. He does.
It doesn't. It won't make sense with because Jordan had the face. He had the clean face. He had the, all the scandals were kept under the rug. I don't think Ant is living like that.
No. And I think he'll tell you that too.
Right.
He's not going to hide it.
Well, the interesting thing about it is my answer was I don't think there is a face of the league any longer. I think you really go ahead because the All-Star game and the way it went, I think you really get behind it's a world game now. So you put a Wemby on there, you put a Jokic on there, you put those 4 or 5 guys, you got the Cooper flag coming. So you put those guys on there and you throw that flag behind them, right? So you go Shea, Canada, you got Wemby, French, you got the Cooper flag, United States. So you put all that on there and now you make it a world game at that point in time. So there is no face, but it's just, you know what, this is the NBA.
Right.
There we go from there.
And I was talking to a guy that he's local, but he was like, old fella that played with Rick Pitino back in the day, his roommate, and he still does stuff with overseas basketball. And he was talking to us about, like, he's going to these meetings about the NBA expanding and having leagues in all these other countries, and it becoming closer and closer to being really true that it's going to be a worldwide, not only just players, but a worldwide game. Right. Something that we've never seen before.
And imagine how much money is around the whole world. So these people can own their own teams over there. So now you're ready to roll. It is an international game.
Right.
So world championship is true. World championship.
Well, we've ruined our game, unfortunately, with paying the players, because now they're not no one's hungry. Like you got guys that are going to school now or trying out for NBA teams, trying out for the G League that are already millionaires.
Right.
So it's like, it's just a different vibe now.
Yeah. No, and it's trickling. It's trickling down.
Definitely.
High school kids are getting money. I mean, it's just like it's really trickling down.
Right.
Courtney, what you got for us? Anything you want to hard hitting topics you want us to hit? Well,
you might want to say, give a shout out to the Players Grill.
You think so? I think that is a great idea.
Right.
I'm surprised you haven't done that a few times already.
Right? Yeah, he didn't give us the eye and say, hey, we had the Players Grill, 600 Park Street. Shout out to Nick, the owner.
Shout out to my guy Nick, man.
No. See, I give the eye. LaTroy looks at me and he goes like,
He looks away.
I already told him I can't read lips.
LaTroy, I
man.
know.
Yeah.
LaTroy looks at me and goes, I don't know what he's saying. I don't know what he's saying.
Definitely. Big shout out to Nick, man. Players Grill, 600 Park Street. And don't forget, got another location out in San Jose. Hey, we're going to keep it coming here every Tuesday night as for now. And we're going to keep this thing popping.
And you know what we need to do is we need to get a crowd out here so we can have some interactive questions, get some people up here.
That's it. The future plans is to do the podcast and then afterwards have like a live music show going on. So that's why we call it Sports and Sounds.
Yeah.
You tell Nick to stream the games. Stream one of the high school games.
Yeah,
You
no
can have
doubt.
a live watch.
Yeah.
Perfect. You know.
I like it. Definitely on a couple TVs.
Yeah.
That'd be huge, especially get ready to go into the playoffs.
Right.
No doubt.
All right.
All right, Nick. So you now.
Yep.
Did you want to speak about Taylor Bell, the foundation?
Well, we'll work on that in a little bit. Yeah, give me another week on that. We'll finalize Taylor Bell, definitely. But it's coming. Taylor Bell coming soon.
Yep. EAS recruiting here. Hit them up. Hit Mike McCormick up. If you're a player wanting to get recruited, he can help you out.
All right. Thank you, Will, for coming and hang out with us on the
As always.
road.
Anytime.
That's it, brother. Yes, sir.
Anytime.
Get that $5,000 prize in August.
Oh, you gonna play?
No. I'll be right here on the mic. All right. Well done. Sunshine State Broadcasting.
We're out.
Podcast.
So, hey, Courtney, we
First Baptist Church of Orange Park was founded in 1921. Suffice to say, much has changed in Orange Park, Clay County, and the world since then. Though much has changed in the world, our mission remains the same. We are a church intent on fulfilling that mission and are strategically engaged in our community through partnerships with local schools, sports teams, veterans organizations, and more. We are a family equipping church. We invite you to check us out at firstfam.org or join us in person at 1140 Kingsley Avenue, Orange Park, Florida.